I was born in the year 2000, and entertainment was a huge part of my life. I have so many memories with my family that happen to be around a TV or computer screen, like watching American Idol at 8 o'clock, or my brother and I discovering that the common ground in our sibling rivalry happened to be the spot right in front of the PS2, which was also a gift from our eldest brother, who we've both looked up to. There was driving to Blockbuster with our dad so he could pick out the perfect thing for us to watch that night. Meanwhile, my brother and I would run around the aisles admiring the box art of movies we wanted to see and games that we really wanted to play.
Oh, cool.
And along with this general appreciation for entertainment, there was an even deeper respect for it. We were always allowed to watch media that was a little over our age range, so long as we could prove that we could handle it. On more than one occasion, I lost my Simpsons privileges because of a bad joke at the dinner table that I didn't understand. But, by the same token, I remember watching my brother play Uncharted and wanting to try it myself, but only if I could prove that my interest was not because it looked violent, but because it looked good. Then, in 2011, my brother found himself starved for content, as he was in between seasons of Lost. He decided to look for other projects by J.J. Abrams, and he stumbled upon Fringe. Now, I was a couple years behind on Lost, so I was excited to be included in this trendy, edgy new TV show. Little did I know, it would prove to be one of the most influential bits of media I would ever consume. So that brings me to Fringe, and my goal with this video, if I have one at all. It's not to gush about how absolutely, undeniably incredible and unique Fringe is, how it's one of the greatest live-action TV shows in history. I'm not going to break down any particular scene or moment in the show's run and explain why the actors are fucking killing it, or why the visual effects are so tastefully handled that despite being found on television in 2009, they look absolutely timeless. In fact, I don't even want to tell you anything about the show's narrative at all, in order to protect the purity of its storytelling. My goal with this video is simply this. I'm trying to convey that when I tell you you should watch Fringe, it's not the same as when your buddy tells you that you should check out Game of Thrones. Fringe was a show that was on at the wrong place at the wrong time, and it totally missed its audience. Despite the fact that it has 5 seasons, it's been almost completely forgotten. And in this modern renaissance of television, it's ready to duke it out with the greats, and I think it beats every single one of them. Fringe deserves not to be forgotten, and furthermore, you deserve to watch it. And the only way I can think of to explain why is to talk about its intro. I know it might sound silly to try to sell you on a TV show to then only talk about its intro, but trust me when I tell you, it gives you everything you need to know. The television intro can either be one of the most effective tools in a show's repertoire, or it can be a tragically mishandled, totally forgettable bit of fluff at the beginning of each episode. So, let's do a quick experiment. What do you feel when you see this? Okay, it's The Simpsons intro, so I'm not going to include the entire thing in this video because it's about 1.5 minutes long, but if you feel like you need to rewatch it, or somehow you've managed to get this far along in life without having seen The Simpsons intro, feel free, go ahead, look it up on YouTube, watch the video, come back here. But I'm going to assume that at this point, everyone has seen and absorbed the entire Simpsons intro. So, let's move on. What do you feel when you see this? Now, these are two of the most iconic television intros in history. But believe it or not, they share the same DNA. They both use music to establish the tone of the show, to adjust the mood of the audience in order to better suit the experience that they're about to have. For The Simpsons, it's playful and fast-paced, which speaks to the comedic animated sitcom sensibilities of the show. Meanwhile, The X-Files' music is ominous and measured. It's deliberately hypnotic and isolating, meaning you're likely about to experience something mysterious and supernatural, something that is fundamentally unfamiliar to you. Beyond their music, both intros use visuals that bring you into the world of the show. The Simpsons does this quite literally, bringing the viewer in from the clouds above the town of Springfield, showing each of the main characters engaged in activities that define their personality, before literally smushing them together on one couch as the nuclear family we know them to be. The Simpsons even takes the extra step of keeping their intro fresh with the occasional couch gag. This is more of a fun Easter egg than anything else, but it's part of the reason the intro remains so iconic, so it's worth mentioning. While The X-Files uses a slightly different approach, it still uses visuals to bring you deeper into the world, showing paranormal images and mysterious clues as if you're poring over the titular X-Files yourself, investigating these cases alongside the two leads, which are introduced not with live-action footage, but through the lifeless photos of their badges, which adds to the feeling of unease and intrigue. By the end of the intro, you find yourself alongside Mulder and Scully on an investigation, which is exactly where you'll remain throughout the runtime of the episode. Both these intros are master classes on establishing tone and transporting the viewer to a new world quickly and efficiently. If you need more examples of this type of intro, feel free to take a look at classic shows like The Twilight Zone, The Office, The Brady Bunch, SpongeBob, Dexter, Friends, Batman the Animated Series, That 70s Show, and many, many others. The stage is set, this is what you need to know, and here's a song that tells you how to feel about it. It's a system, and it works. Okay, now I'm ready to talk about Fringe. So let's take a look at its intro. Strap in, relax, and watch this. Okay, what did you notice there? How does Fringe set up its viewer? The answer is by throwing nearly everything I just said out the mother-lovin' window. That's how. Okay, starting with the obvious, Fringe still uses music. It does, yes. And it does this to establish its tone, right? Okay then, let's do another experiment. I'm going to throw some options on screen and play the song again. Go ahead and pick the option that matches the tone of the song the best. If you had a hard time making that decision, don't worry, because you're probably not alone. But how could that be? Those three options were quite different. One was objectively positive, one was objectively negative, and the other was exactly in between. So why choose that song? Why allow the tone of your show to be so open to interpretation, so subjective? And furthermore, why not tell us more about the show? Why didn't they show any of the actors' faces? Hell, they didn't even tell us their names, or the names of any of their characters. Instead of bringing me into their world slowly, they've stuck me in front of a microscope. Instead of zooming in, I'm panning out. Instead of helping me to understand its world, it's showing me that I don't. Between the cool blue frames of animation, there are these weird images that flash so quickly, I'm not even sure I saw them. There are these words on the screen, some of which I understand and some I don't, and it really doesn't matter because I have no context for any of it. I'm seeing a tiny portion of something bigger, a shard of an idea that was smashed apart, and somehow I need to put it back together. That's Fringe's intro. It doesn't hold your hand, it doesn't answer your questions. Instead, it draws you in, and then it makes you a promise. It promises that Whatever you heard inside of that melody, whatever your brain drew on the blank canvas of sound the show put before you, Fringe will be that. It will be a thrilling discovery, a surreal dream, and it will have no shortage of suspense. I have such a hard time explaining to people what Fringe is about because it manages to be about so much over the course of its run, and even within a single episode. Hope and despair, fear and bravery, anger and forgiveness, discovery and loss, beauty and horror, humor and cynicism. And to top it all off, remember what I said about the Simpsons couch gags? Fringe takes it to the next level. The opening isn't static. It will change in subtle ways as the show goes on, and it will change dramatically if the setting does. As your understanding of the show develops, the intro becomes more familiar, more discernible. You can genuinely read into it. But to a first-time viewer, its message is this: you don't know anything about this world, and that's okay. So I only ask that you don't try to compare it, and you don't try to outsmart it. Just sit down, pay attention, and watch it come together. You won't regret it.
Somewhere beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me, my lover stands on golden sands and watches the ships that go sailing. Somewhere beyond the sea, she's there watching for me. If I could fly like birds